Good morning. This is the Committee on Agriculture and Food Systems in Conference Room 325 here at the State Capitol, scheduled today for March 18th, 2026. Thank you for being here and the folks on Zoom. My name is Matthias Cush. I'm the Vice Chair of Agriculture and the Chair, Corey Chun. Switching up roles today, keep it fresh for you guys. Bob and weave. Some ground rules we'll go over here, and I'm just going to read them off. Because morning hearings must adjourn prior to floor session at noon, all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. In that event, know that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. In order to allow as many people as possible to testify, there's a 2-minute time limit per testifier. For those on Zoom, please keep yourself muted and video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use that chat for technical reasons only. If you're disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If you're disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note that the House is not responsible for any poor internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule a hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, the appropriate notice will be posted. Please avoid using any trademark or copyrighted images if you're on Zoom in the background. And then please refrain from any profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing and without the ability to rejoin. Finally, we have a new microphone system in the House conference room. So microphones are in the ceiling. So please be aware that any side conversations may be picked up. We are listening. No, I'm just kidding. You see the green lights up there. Thank you. So on our agenda today, first up, we have SB 2885 SD1. It's relating to biosecurity. Beginning in January 1st, 2027, establishes mandatory handling and storage rules for commercial and residential coconut rhinoceros beetle host material to reduce the spread of CRB within infested zones and to prevent the spread into non-infested zones. Establishes penalties and has a defective effective date. We have 21 people in support, 0 in opposition, and 1 comment on this measure. And first up to testify, we have Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity.
Fellow Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Riley Yu from the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. We stand on our written testimony and support. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Chi from DLNR in person.
Yes. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee. We support this bill. We believe that it definitely gets to the point of trying to reduce the spread of coconut rhinoceros beetle. We do note that there are additional methods that may not be mentioned in this bill at the moment that could be considered. The Hawaii's Coconut Rhinoceros Beetle Response Project has many science-backed methods that could be added to the bill if necessary. So I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Next up on Zoom, we have Maya Hunter from Maui County Department of Agriculture.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and member of the committee. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify on this important measure. Maui County Department of Agriculture stands by our support testimony and will remain on the call for questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Morning, Vice Chair, Chair, Member. Ron Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Was done on written testimony supporting the intent.
Thank you. Next, we have Marvin Min from Hawaii Earth Recycling with comments on Zoom.
Hello, Chair Chan, Vice Chair Kush, and members of the committee. My name is Marvin Min, and testifying on behalf of Hawaiian Earth Recycling. You have a written testimony and would like to briefly summarize our comments on SB 2885 SD1. As the state's largest green waste recycler with over 30 years of experience, we respectfully offer several recommendations to strengthen this bill based on practicality and experience. First, erosion control socks and filters should be included in this bill. DABS has confirmed these materials can harbor CRV as well. Second, we recommend aligning this bill with the existing Department of Health and EPA solid waste regulations, including permit requirements for all commercial green waste processing, storage, and distribution. This will provide consistency across agencies with compliance, clarity, and enforcement statewide. Third, we encourage allowing future approved treatment methods produced in the state of Hawaii and validated through the University of Hawaii laboratory testing. This supports local innovation while reducing reliance on imported and potentially unapproved biological controls. Finally, we recommend replacing the 60-day turn-in requirements with the established process to further reduce pathogen standards. Turning alone is not effective without sustained thermophilic temperatures, and PFRP is already a proven and regulated approach under the Department of Health, the United States EPA, and the United States Composting Council standards. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify, and I will be available for any questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hunter Haviland from Hawaii Farmers Union in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Committee Member Hunter Haviland on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union will send our written testimony.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Joy Shi, individual in support on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair Chen, Acting Chair for today, Kush, and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing this important bill today. Residents, cultural, environmental, and industry groups are all eager to see this bill come into fruition. While as just noted by DLNR, there are other methods that we can and should deploy in addition to mulch management. And thank you for raising that point. This bill would establish a statewide, consistent, simple, but meaningfully effective framework, knitting together existing efforts that are being implemented in regional and county efforts already. As long as there are gaps, there will be confusion and CRB will continue to spread. CRB is manageable, as we have seen in other island nations, such as Samoa, Palau, and Fiji. It just requires a concerted effort. And the sooner we act, the less it will cost our state to manage. So mahalo for the opportunity to testify. I am available to answer any further questions.
Thank you. That's everybody we have on our sheet here. Is there anybody else wishing? Please come forward.
The tax department is here, and we stand on our testimony, and
State your name. And
my name is Eliza, and I'm from the Hawaii State Tax Department.
okay.
And we noted one thing, that refundable credits are susceptible to fraud and abuse. So we do have them, so we can administer them, but we recommended to make it non-refundable. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think you are you testifying on SB 2174? Or is there a section in this one? 2885?
SB 2925. I'm sorry.
2925,
I
yeah.
came in late. I thought you guys were talking about this coconut.
That's all right.
Coconut one.
So it all meshes together.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure in person?
Aloha, my name is Daniel Anthony, and I want to testify in support of this bill, but I want to make a point here that's very important, is that the people that we're putting our faith in to build this strategy has failed for the last 13 years because there has been no reasonable effort put into community or cultural consultations. One of the challenges that the Department of Ag faces has a culture of chemicals, not one of community and food production. And this is proof in the actions that they have across the community. I deplore you to amend this and to add a cultural advisement position into this so that the community that subsists from coconuts. Yeah, let me tell you this, so far, the strategy to fight coconut rhinoceros beetle has never been for coconut trees. It has been for landscape palms. And I ask you, those that would hold the Department of Ag accountable, to really question their use of the terminology of coconuts if they really mean landscape palms. And that because they don't have anyone that is holding them accountable, it has been 13 years of do whatever you want. And here we are today asking to give them more support when in actuality, we're here because of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person? Oh,
Aloha kahiaka, my name is Amy Lowell Borland. I'm with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We submitted all of our testimony as written only, but we are here. So we do stand on a written testimony in support. Just wanted to highlight that some smaller operations may not have the ability to acquire the equipment or staffing needed to meet the requirements of this measure. So just wanted the committee to respectfully encourage you folks to consider technical guidance and cost share support.
thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this in person? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. Moving on, our next bill, oh, I'm sorry, questions, sorry, rookie maneuver. Any questions for our committee or chair? Our Department of Ag Security.
Good morning again. So this bill requires you to enforce if it passes. How would enforcement look like? Are you folks even able to enforce this? Considering it's requiring commercial and residential.
Yeah, for solid waste, that's really Department of Health responsibility, but we would enforce it with inspection, working with the composting, the retail side. We have, our policy has been educate before you regulate, or in this case, educate before you actually penalize. So that would be our enforcement, but I do have a subject matter expert here, and if Jonathan?
Oh, he just stepped out.
Oh, we just stepped out, okay, but may I make a comment before unrelated comment, respectfully? You know, with the recent rains that might have washed away some of this green waste in piles of CRB hosting material, if that occurred in your neighborhood or in your community, please don't create another pile. It's a good opportunity to start fresh. And I'm sorry with all the damage that did occur, but that would be one of the measures we could do for CRB control. And maybe Jonathan will walk in opportune, but Esther, do you have anything to say about CRB? Okay, sorry, that would be it. We would regulate before we would educate before we regulate or penalize. Is that good? Okay, thanks.
Actually, wait, Chair, one of the questions I had reviewing this bill was, how do you, in your mind, looking at this, how would small farmers in distal regions like on Hawaii Island where we don't have municipal rubbish pickup, everybody takes their rubbish to the transfer stations, not all transfer stations have green waste sites at the regional areas that could be 40 miles away, like driving from Wailua to Hawaii Kai to drop your green waste. They're only open a couple days a week. I mean, how do you, in your mind, how do you see farmers kind of bridging that gap, and what tools might be out there at your disposal to make that?
Okay, that's a good question, and we've met a couple times with the counties, quite frequent with the counties, because it is a county issue. I guess the way to handle it is more disposal sites, more control of green waste. Apparently when you trim your tree, that is considered green waste. But when you start to pile it up and it becomes a product, you might say, it becomes another issue, and that at that point we can step in. Green waste is our mandate, but when it starts piling up, we have to work with our partner agencies to move it around. So maybe on a state level, we can assume we can set up green waste places. drop-off points and manage that. We've tried that. A lot of it, we don't have enough state properties, so to speak, that we can cordon off and designate as a drop-off point. But we've considered it. Previous testifier, Daniel Anthony, he has come up with some ideas for drop-off points, but it's been problematic. The management, the security, access, liability, it all comes into play when the state manages. Maybe on a private sector side or a community side, it might be a little bit easier to set up drop-off points, but it's been what they call a boondoggle. Yeah, so
Yeah, no, I could see it.
that's what it's solvable, but we have to get everybody involved, interagency effort, community effort, get everybody involved because it's manageable, but you need a lot of drop-off points.
Yeah, no,
And what you're doing is you're creating another breeding site.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, did you?
I would just like to state that between 2013 and 2016, the US military was effective in removing coconut rhinoceros beetle from Hickam Air Force Base without the use of toxic chemicals. They used a product called an air burner, which is a smoke-free, it burns 13 tons per hour. So the solution, I wrote a GIA this year, I would hope that you folks would support it, would be to acquire the first private air burner here so that we can mitigate mulch in our communities. And the reality is that we're asking for the state's help to equip those hard-to-reach communities with the necessary equipment so that we can fight this in our community. Give us the tools. They might not be effective in managing and using it. I will also share that for the $2 million a year that has gone to CRB response, that has never trickled down to impacting the community. I also want to show this. This is metarrhizin anastopliae, and this fungus is available for purchase on Amazon. Now, I am not making any pesticidal claims, but I can tell you if you go on the CRB response team's website, the Hawaii Invasive Species Council and DLNR, they all list it as an effective fungus against coconut rhinoceros beetle in mulch. And that people have been using it on Oahu in your district that has been finding success with managing this in the mulch. The reality is what we're asking for is actual collaboration with the Department of Ag. I can't even get these guys to return my phone call. Yeah, I call twice, 3 times a week. They're unable to return our calls. And the solution is not to give them the ball, is to give the community the ball. Because that is how it has effectively been fought in other Pacific Islands.
Okay, thank you for your answer to that. I appreciate that. Any further questions?
Yeah, I had a question for Marvin. I mean, if he's still available.
Marvin still online?
Hi, hello.
Hey Marvin, thanks for being thanks for being here. You know, I had a question about just the treatments that you outlined and just like you know, what is the cost to that for you folks? And if anyone else is required to do this?
I'm not sure I understand your question. What is the cost for what?
Oh, for the CRB treatments outlined in this bill. For the heat
Well,
treatment.
yes, the management of greenways is a natural process that we go through with natural composting process to allow it to heat up on its own.
Okay,
so in order to compost the right way, you need to basically grind your greenways and have an adequate amount of moisture and equipment to turn the mulch piles in order to create the activities of the microbes. It's the activity of the microbes when they work hard, that's what creates all the heat the natural way.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Marvin, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate your work and your recommendations for amendments. And I think what Chair might have been asking, or what I'm curious about, is whether including this kind of language would increase the cost of business in terms of what you are already doing at Hawaiian Earth. So this seems to me to be like within the scope of what you folks are already doing.
Yes, Representative Perusa, you're correct. It's just we go through this process. It's required that we do this based on the State Department of Health requirements, the United States EPA, as well as our United States Composting Council standards. This is what we do already. And again, by just saying to mechanically turn the piles in 60 days, that is not in any of the regulations today, because it doesn't make sense unless the pile gets heated up to reach temperatures of 131 degrees minimum.
So quick follow-up, is your operation alone in having already adopted these practices? Or are there other operations maybe on other islands? I don't think there's any other operations similar on Oahu, but I'm not too sure about the neighbor islands.
No, every permitted facility goes through the same requirements.
And they would be
And,
they would not require any kind of modifications to be consistent with
No.
these amendments?
Yeah, no, good. It's a good question. The consistency, and that's what I mentioned in my summary, is just by following our Department of Health requirement, which basically hits the environmental mitigations of odor control, leachate control, stormwater, invasive species control, fire control, etc. We all have to, as long as you have a State of Hawaii Department of Health permit, we all have to file that same permit. We have our other branches on the Big Island as an example. We go through the exact same process. There are other composters as well that are permitted and go through the same process as well.
Thank you, Chair.
So quick follow-up, Marvin. Thank you again. So most of these amendments are basically following DOH regulations.
Exactly, which follows the EPA regulations.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Without further questions, moving on to the next bill, SB 2174 SD2 relating to agriculture. Hang with me, this is a longer paragraph. Authorizes the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to declare an emergency quarantine when it has been reasonably determined that there is a threat to agriculture on the environment in the state. Authorizes the department to halt operations related to or within the affected area for 96 hours, subject to extension by vote of the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity. Authorizes the department to quarantine any business or other area that is known or reasonably suspected to be infested or infected with any pest. Requires the department to provide certain notices to affected farmers and provide compensation. Authorizes the department to establish interim rules governing the transportation of any material within the state known to harbor or transport high-impact invasive species or pests. And we had 6 in opposition, 6 in support, 1 in opposition, and 2 comments on this. First up to testify in person is Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, staff stands on its written testimony and support. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Next we have DLNR, Patrick G.
The department stands on its testimony in support. We also definitely support that the expanded amended authority of DAB to declare an emergency quarantine. It is very critical within those first few hours of understanding an invasion to act quickly and to do something in order to reduce the impacts of invasive species. I'm available for questions here.
Thank you. Next up, we have Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
The Hawaii Farm Bureau is down on its written testimony providing comments.
Hunter Havlin with comments, Hawaii Farmers Union. on Zoom person.
Yes, I'm a Zoom person today. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Committee Member Hunter Havlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. You'll have our written comments. We support the amendments that were added previously in earnest that added compensation for producers, but would like to see if this measure is to move forward. These are extraordinary powers that would be given to the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. And we think that they should come along with the expectation of collaborative communication and outreach to the agricultural sector through partners, many of whom are in the room, as well as a mechanism to understand the efficacy of such quarantines. What was proposed in our written testimony was something like, say, 90 days later, let's have a report to the Board of Agriculture about was this effective? What was the impact to the agricultural economy? What was the impact to the spread of invasive species? To understand whether this extraordinary power is one that should continue to be utilized. Happy to answer any questions. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Those are all the people we have listed. Is there anybody in person who would like to testify? Anybody on Zoom? No? Oh!
Daniel Anthony here again, guys. Normally, I would say I would wanna support this bill, the intention of this bill. But I wanna tell you that there is a great distrust of the Department of Ag amongst small farmers and community members. And this would be giving like a child with no transparency, some type of weapon to hold the parents accountable. And so I implore you guys to really focus on having the Department of Ag build strong community relations before giving them the ability to have such great power. Thus far, what I have heard many, many times is that the culture is forgotten and that they can't enforce what they already have on the books. So by giving them more power in which they cannot enforce what they already have leads me to believe that it will be based upon favoritism and the status quo of looking the other way and misinterpreting their own regulations and rules. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in person? Chair, actually member questions? Chair?
Yeah, I have a question for Deb. Good morning, Jonathan. So my question is, so last year we gave DAB the power to declare a biosecurity emergency. How would this differ, and is this needed if you already have that authority?
So Jonathan Hode, Plant Quarantine Branch Manager, Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. So the way they differ is the biosecurity emergency requires governor approval, which this is a department-only function. And the idea here is we do have some authority in administrative rules to do something similar, but I think having statutory authority for a short period to manage that so that we can get in and do what needs to be done is I think kind of what the intent is, without having the governor approval. And the governor approval one also has like much more sweeping powers. You can start, taking land and reimbursing people and funds and things like that, where this is just regulatory authority for the department for essentially incipient pests. It wouldn't be for stuff that's widespread, and we tried to clarify a lot of that as it was being made, as it went through the prior iterations.
So under rules, you do have authority to quarantine.
Yes.
Quick question. So would this be considered kind of an intermediary step to the powers that were ascribed last year during the biosecurity?
Yes, that is something that could be done. I think the only difference with this one is that the time frame is relatively short. Whereas I'm not sure how quickly emergency declaration through the governor would. It's conceivable depending on pest and the level of infestation. That's determined in the 96 hours. You could do one and then the other. So you could do both.
So it's like an intermediate, it could be an
Yes.
intermediate step. Okay, yeah, we're trying to, thank you. Hunter? I'm sorry, Chair, go ahead. Did you have a question? Okay. You know, in your testimony, you talked about the coordinating with farm organizations and then the post-evaluation report. Like, could you describe how that how coordinating with organizations would look?
The department consistently relies, having been deprived of an effective statistical service for the past decade, on national statistics to have an understanding of the scope of agricultural activity in the state. That data affords little in terms of outreach into agricultural communities. And while there's a growing effort with efforts over the past couple of years to build some databases and understanding, concern is that if enforcement to this degree were to be implemented, that the communication would not necessarily be rapid or sufficient to ensure awareness is actually had amongst agricultural communities. And particularly since the compensation that we'd advocated for was written into the existing version of the bill, if people aren't aware that they're under a quarantine or aren't aware that they could potentially and should be compensated for losses as a result of that quarantine, the concern is then that this would have considerable deleterious effects to the agricultural economy. And so ensuring that there's robust outreach is one mechanism to try and make this a little bit more palatable.
Okay, via like organizations, I'm curious.
Yeah, like Farmers Union, Farm Bureau, Cattlemen's, a variety of other entities across the islands that maintain day-to-day contact from a non-regulatory experience with producers. And then on the far end of it, then saying, if we are going to be implementing these kinds of things, are they actually effective? Or are we just putting in hardship upon the already beleaguered agricultural sector without much outcome in terms of invasive species management?
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Any other question, Chair, members? Okay, without further questions, we're gonna move on to our next bill, SB 2925 SD1. This is related to coconut trees. Establishes recognition of coconut trees as a source of food and water as a cultural treasure. Requires the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to establish rules to allow the use of coconut tree seed banks in the state. Requires owners or operators of property where any coconut tree is located to post and maintain a sign that clearly indicates that the coconut tree is a landscape palm where applicable. Requires the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to establish labeling standards for non-consumable landscape palms. Establishes an income tax credit for consumable coconut trees maintained through natural management practices. Has a effective date. We have 9 in support, 0 in opposition, and 3 comments. First off, in person, we have Department of Ag and Biosecurity.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, staff stands on its written testimony and comments.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have you twice. Department of Taxation.
Yay.
Here's your time.
Department of Taxation will stand on its written testimony with comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather McMillan, DLNR on Zoom.
Aloha, good morning. Heather McMillan representing DLNR. We stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mia Hunter, Maui County Department of Agriculture on Zoom in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Maya Hunter here, representing Maui County Department of Agriculture. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify on this measure. Our department stands in support and stands on our testimony and is open for questions.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in person.
Hawaii Farm Bureau stand on its written testimony with comments.
And Hunter Havlin, Hawaii Farmers Union in support on Zoom person.
Zoom. Live Zoom. Hunter Havlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We're in support of a number of the aspects of this measure, from supporting producers who are actively cultivating new. One amendment that we would like to see, however, is around the labeling requirements. I think that the landscape palm labeling aspect be limited to public lands and lands that are generally and publicly accessible, so as not to incur upon the private activities of land managers that are not adjacent to publicly accessible areas. But other than that, strong support.
Okay, thank you. That's everybody we have listed. Is there anybody in person who would like to testify on this measure?
Aloha kakahiaka, Emilio Borland with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Again, the written only, we're here. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. NIU is part of a network of pilina between Native Hawaiians and Aina that has sustained our community since time immemorial. And so recognizing NIU as a food and water source and affirming its cultural significance ensures that these relationships to Aina are preserved and carried forward for our future generations. And the loss of our NIU comes with the loss of an essential source of food and water as well as our traditional and customary practices. And as our communities face increasing pressures from climate change, rising food costs, and a loss of traditional resources, safeguarding our NIU against CRB while ensuring they are safe for human consumption maintains alignment with Malama Aina to better support Hawaii's long-term food security. Mahalo nui.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure?
Hi guys, this is the bill that I came for.
State your name, please. And
My name is Daniel Anthony. I share that with you guys because in my depression over learning about the situation of our coconuts, I literally had to start carving stones. And I said, what is the solution to this? And that is a representation of the solution. It is 4 owls combined in one. It's different perspectives that don't get along, get together, coming together to find a solution. This bill is a community-led bill that is asking the tough questions. One, who decided to define coconuts as landscape palms? I've asked this question. I actually asked it to the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity. How did it become a landscape palm? Nobody can answer. Arbitrarily, someone decided that this most important sacred tree that is protected by the Constitution, because you see, Native Hawaiians with lineal ties can go on private lands to gather. Now I ask you, you see an 80-foot coconut tree. Anybody over here planted that 80-foot coconut tree? Because that was planted prior to statehood. That these trees are actually ancestors that have never once said they weren't a part of our food system. It has not been defined in any regulations, nor can we find it that says that a coconut is no longer a coconut. So yes, it is difficult to label trees. I understand that, and this is something in this bill we'd be willing to negotiate. But I will tell you this, the liability is removed by simply stating that it is not in our food system. Do you know who the #1 supplier of coconuts on the island of Oahu is? Tweakers. Tweakers, straight up. I have had to go into this like investigative reporter, and the tweaker economy is funded by all those trees that we don't think are food. Because nobody gets them, and when they see them at a certain point, they go at night and they harvest them. And where do these coconuts go? You know, once I was in a community meeting, and a member of DAB said that we have to save coconuts for the tourists. That's why we poison them. How many tourists are drinking poisoned coconuts? Now, when I ask what the impacts of drinking a poisoned coconut, they don't have an answer. When I ask what is the impacts of drinking 20 to 40 poisoned coconuts a week, now they're concerned. I feel like the state has a tremendous amount of liability in regards to the health of our Pacific Island community and all the visitors that come to Hawaii to do what? Drink a coconut. So I ask you to really bring those that would question how important this is to the table, to have an open discussion. As I've said before, I come here as a collaborator with the Department of Ag, asking to be a part of the discussion that is impacting everyone. And I would ask for your folks' help in making that happen. And I believe that this bill is a major step into regulatory recognition that this is a part of our food system. You know, every fully producing coconut is 2 weeks worth of food and water. That is more than what the state has for each individual in case of emergency. In fact, 1 million coconut trees on Oahu would ensure that we would survive any disaster for up to 2 weeks unscathed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to testify? Okay, members, questions, Chair? Okay, moving on to our next bill. SB 2798 SD1 relating to law enforcement makes permanent the Department of Agriculture pilot program established pursuant to Act 235 SLH 2025, renames the program as the Agricultural Enforcement Program and expands the program statewide as an effective date. And we had 7 in support, 0 in opposition, 0 comments, I'm sorry. 2198. 9 in support, 0 in opposition, and 3 comments. First in person, we have Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity.
DAB stands on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Mike Lambert, DLE in person, Department of Law Enforcement.
Good morning, Jared Ridula, the Deputy Director, will stand on our testimony in support.
Thank you. Keldon Waltgen from Hawaii County, Prosecuting Attorney in support on Zoom. Not present, okay. Mia Hunter, Maui County Department of Agriculture in support on Zoom.
Aloha everyone, Maya Hunter from Maui County Department of Agriculture. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify. Our department does stand in support of this bill, and I would like to just add for context that permanency of this program would extend the same robust enforcement privileges that are being piloted on Oahu and Hawaii Island to outer islands, farmers, and ranchers that we at MDOA hear from all the time getting impacted by this, and it would ensure all Hawaii producers, regardless of location, benefit from equal protection against theft and threats. So, mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicole Galassi from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council in support on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. The Hawaii Cattlemen's Council supports this bill. We know that there is a high need for it across the state, not just Oahu and Hawaii Island. We hope that more prosecutions will lead to more deterrence of crime because currently it's still rampant. We really appreciate working with the Department of Law Enforcement, but we recognize that they need enough resources to be able to truly help agriculture. Please make this program permanent and statewide, but ensure that the program is funded to its full needs. On top of food production being a high priority for the state, even higher than that is the safety of our community. Mahalo.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support. In fact,
comments?
We'd like to see this statewide because apparently we have a tweaker coconut problem, theft problem we can address. Thank you.
Just say no to drugs. Hunter Heavlin, Hawaii Farmers in support.
Farmers Union stands on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. That's everybody we had listed in person. Is there anybody else who would like to testify in person on Zoom? Okay. Members, questions?
I have a question for DLE. So I saw your testimony in support, and it seemed to be like pretty enthusiastically in support of expansion and making permanent this program. And I don't argue with the intent, but I am concerned about capacity because in other spaces we are having to privatize security in our courts because you folks don't have the capacity to even staff our courts. So we're going to be paying, some exorbitant amount for private security at our courts, and yet you're asking to expand your duties and your responsibilities. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much for that important question, ma'am. So really what we're trying to do is find balance in our statewide law enforcement duties that run the full spectrum, and specifically the issue of the new agriculture enforcement program. I'll say overall, we thank the legislature for its support and its continuing efforts to allow us to expand our recruitment by issues of increasing our members' pay, our officers' pay. That, foremost, that kind of support is absolutely necessary to making sure that we can not only meet our general recruitment needs for deputy sheriffs, but especially in the agriculture enforcement realm. Now, there is a difference. What we see nationwide is a shortage of law enforcement officers and recruitment everywhere. But specifically with specialized law enforcement, for example, DLNR dole care enforcement, they recently had a recruitment. There were over 700 people across the state that applied for a small amount of officers. And we think there are two issues with that. One is a sense of kuleana towards our natural resources. And the other is there is an attractiveness, an appeal to that kind of outdoor work where you're on the ocean, in the forest reserves, and those kinds of things that are different than the mainstay street law enforcement. We think similarly with agriculture enforcement, being out there with the farmers and ranchers, being up in our very scenic places, places that ordinary people in our communities don't normally get to see every day. There's a real attraction for that kind of work. It certainly is for me, because in the last several months, I personally have had to go out and investigate these types of agriculture crimes. I was just out the other day doing it. So we think that with the agriculture realm, we won't have the kinds of recruitment issues that we are having, for example, in the courthouses and in regular street work that we're having because of that appeal.
So may I have a follow-up
Please.
question? So isn't the recruitment like just a standard basic recruitment so that the deputies all have to have meet the same requirements and go through the same process?
So there
Are
is,
you ready to serve in any capacity to which you assign them?
so what we're doing right now is two things. The first is we're modernizing our training program for every law enforcement officer in the department. You are correct, ma'am. There is a certain basic law enforcement training program that every law enforcement officer gets. With agriculture enforcement, we are designing an enhanced program. Those officers, for example, need to know how to drive four-wheel drive vehicles, and they need to know specific specialized agriculture enforcement laws that the general police officer in our community doesn't necessarily need to know. We need to know, for example, branding, the mechanics of branding, what goes on in these farms and ranches, and what we can expect to be the daily normal activities that we expect to see. Because much of law enforcement is when things just don't look right. And so I've spent a lot of time now in our agriculture community on ranches, speaking with Mr. Min, who testified in the other bill, to understand what the heartbeat every day is in agriculture so that we can create that specialized enforcement program for our new officers.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. So it sounds to me like the pathway is longer to become an agricultural specialist or enforcement officer.
Yes.
It also sounds to me like you already have folks within the department who have shown interest and who might be then kind of siphoned off into that work. So then you face a recruitment problem just to fill the basic ranks, right? The folks who are staffing at the airports, staffing. Also, we have problems with public security at our libraries, our courts. So I think I am still concerned, and I appreciate that we are taking some steps to address the shortage. But I really feel like you folks are expanding your responsibilities so rapidly that I'm not sure you can keep up. And so I'm just skeptical. So thank you. And that's not really a question, it's more of a comment.
Understood.
Any other questions or comments from the members? Chair? Thank you, appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Without further questions or comments from the committee, we're gonna move on to SB 2320 SD1. This relating to agriculture, establishes a Kuleana Ag Tech Pathways program to create career pipelines in the fields of agriculture and agricultural technology, requires University of Hawaii to collaborate with the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, Business Development Corporation, Department of Labor, Industrial Relations, and appropriate community organizations to develop and administer the program. Requires a report to the legislature, appropriate funds, and it has a effective date. We have 11 people in support, 0 in opposition, 2 with comments. And starting off in person, we have Jade Boutte from Department of Labor and Industrial Relations in support.
Chair Kush, Chair Chan, or Chair Chan, Chair Kush. Members, Jay Shimashi, on behalf of Director Boutte, the department stands on the testimony of support.
Thank you. Next, we have the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in support in person.
Staff stands on his written testimony and support.
Thank you. Wendy Gady, Department of Agribusiness Development Corporation in support in person.
Mark Takimoto for Wendy Gady, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. EDC stands on our testimony and support.
Thank you. And then Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure in Zoom? Seeing none. Members, questions? Chair, question? Okay. With that, we're going to move on to SB 2800 SD1. Related to irrigation systems, appropriates funds to the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, Department of Land and Natural Resources, and the Agribusiness Development Corporation to acquire, repair, and maintain irrigation systems in the state. Has a effective date. Sorry, I'm falling behind. We have 7 in support, 0 in opposition, 0 comments. And I am off count here. First off, we have Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in person.
Staff stands on his written testimony and support.
Thank you. Lauren Yasaka, I'm sorry, I just killed that.
DLNR stands on our written comments in support of the bill.
Thank you. Wendy Gady, or
Yeah, Mark Takimoto, the less caffeinated version of Wendy Gady. She might be watching, but
there's secrets with us, don't worry.
We stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farmers Union in person.
Farmers Union Bureau, United. Hawaii Farm Bureau, like the former ADC employee, Mark Takimoto, will stand on everything testimony and support. Especially, and all joking aside, in light of the recent Kona low and the impact to some of our irrigation infrastructure that it could have had on public health and safety.
Thank you. Hunter Hevlin, Hawaii Farmers Union in support.
I'll stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure? On Zoom? Members, questions? Chair? No? Okay, we're gonna move on. SB 1230 SD2. Relating to meat donation, exempts a donation of wild game meat, including access deer by a hunter for the use or distribution by a charitable, religious, or nonprofit organization to needy persons from certain laws regarding the inspection and transportation of meat. Has a effective date. We have 22 people in support, 0 in opposition, and 2 with comments. First up, Nicholas Vargas from DLNR in support in person.
Nick Vargas with the DLNR, my chair, vice chair, members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. HTH Environmental Health Administration, Department of Health with comments in person.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Matt Crono, Department of Health, Environmental Health Services Division. We submitted testimony with comments. I do want to highlight though that we do have concerns about the verticality of the food safety program. Obviously, this impacts Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. However, they're kind of upstream in the food security world, and removing guardrails in that food security system potentially creates different tiers of safety, and especially for most vulnerable communities. While we absolutely support efforts for food safety and invasive and animal control and such, we do have concerns that if we remove those guardrails there upstream, without consideration for what would be needed to make sure that that food system is safe as it goes into the food stream, then downstream we may have really unintended consequences that have impact the population. Thank you. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Mia Hunter from Maui County Department of Ag in support on Zoom.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Maya Hunter from Maui County Department of Agriculture. We stand in support of this bill. Just for some context here in Maui County, we are really overrun by access deer in particular. There's a lot of invasive ungulates, and if we want to talk about safety, let's talk about safety to agriculture, our ecosystems, and our watersheds by these invasive ungulates. This bill presents a really unique opportunity to improve local food security and community resilience by offering a local protein source, as the demand of food will only rise and the cost of food only rises here in our outer islands. And I will be open for questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicole Galassi from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council in support on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Like the previous testifier said, the invasive deer issue is still really, really negatively impacting farmers and ranchers, as well as everyday residents and the environment. This bill will help to facilitate the removing of these animals while still making sure they go to feeding our communities. And from what I understand, this bill is modeled after Texas legislation where they have found success with this method. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Zerbel from Hawaii Food Industry Association in support on Zoom. Not present. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support, adding that it's not just axis deer but feral pigs. So this bill is wild game. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Kaflis from Grassroot Institute of Hawaii in support in person. Not present. And then Richard First, individual in support on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Richard First. I'm a hunter and, sorry, apparently looking at the wrong camera.
It's a good profile.
I just want to add a few additional comments in addition to the written testimony that I supported in regards to the valid concerns raised by the Department of Health. With respect to concerns about the food safety and absence of USDA inspection, I think it's important to recognize that hunters already have a strong incentive to practice proper field care of wild game. They're the same handling practices they rely on to safely feed their own families and communities. If the legislature wants to strengthen safeguards further, I would encourage consideration of a funding partnership between DLNR and Department of Health to expand hunter education programs. They could take on additional training on field care, processing techniques, and identifying any signs of illness or disease in harvested animals. Additionally, nonprofit organizations distributing the wild game could be supported in providing clear cooking guidance to recipients of these meals. For example, cooking wild boar to an internal temperature of 165 degrees, venison, goat, and sheep to 145 degrees. This would kill off any pathogen concerns. In regards to comparisons to hunter donation programs in states with cooler fall climates, I respectfully note that the fundamentals of proper field care are consistent no matter the geography. Promptly gutting, skinning, and quartering remains game animals after you've harvested them are the most effective methods for preventing contamination in the meat. I think it's also worth acknowledging that many mainland donation programs rely on commercial meat processors, resources that are limited here in Hawaii. This presents an opportunity. I think the legislature could consider supporting development of funding commercial kitchens or meat processing facilities that are accessible to the public. That infrastructure would not only enhance the food safety, but also expand community access to locally harvested protein. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jackie Keefe, individual in support on Zoom, not present. That concludes all of our listed testifiers. Is there anybody in person who'd like to testify? Hunter, please.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Farmers Union stands on its unwritten testimony in support. Apologize, we did not get something in ahead of time. This is a pretty important measure that seeks to unravel the state, maybe tying its own shoelaces together while trying to address food security and ungulate management. At the federal level, wild game is not considered an amenable species for inspection if it is not going to be used for sale. Applying an additional layer of requirements for inspection at the state level seems like we would put ourselves well out in front of federal requirements while seemingly having no benefit as a result. So I think this is a necessary measure to ensure that we are in alignment while simultaneously being able to increase access to local proteins that seemingly are much more renewable than we'd like them to be, and simultaneously hopefully addressing some of the myriad concerns that agricultural operations face as a result of invasive species. Happy to answer any questions, and mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, I think I forgot to mention there's 22 people in support, 0 in opposition, and 2 comments on this bill. Members, any questions? Chair? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to SB 2706 SD1 relating to workforce development. Establishes a 5-year agriculture and biosecurity workforce development pilot program within the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in collaboration with University of Hawaii's Leeward Community College and the Department of Human Resource Development. Requires a report to the legislature and sunsets June 30th, 2031 as an effective date. We have 6 in support, 0 in opposition, with 1 in comments. First up, we have Patrick Chi from DLNR in person.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We are in strong support of this bill. We believe that there is a significant need for a pipeline of biosecurity workers. There definitely are not enough of them applying for a lot of our invasive species biosecurity jobs, and having this in place would definitely help to fill those positions. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thank you. Next, we have Brenna Hashimoto from Department of Human Resource Development with comments in person. Not present. Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in support in person.
Staff stands on his written testimony in support and has questions.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Alrighty. Anybody else like to testify on this measure? Anybody on Zoom? Members, question? Chair? Okay, seeing none. We're gonna move on to SB 3233 SD1. Relating to agricultural workforce housing, requires state agencies, including the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, the Agribusiness Development Corporation, that administer agricultural leases, licenses, development programs, or procurement involving agricultural products to award points or preference to agricultural projects incorporating agricultural workforce housing. requires a report to the legislature, and it has a effective date. We have 6 in support, 0 in opposition, 3 with comments. First up, we have Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in person.
DAB stands on its written testimony with comments. Here for any questions.
Thank you. Wendy Gady, Agribusiness Development Corporation in support.
Yes, we stand on our written testimonies.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
Hawaii Farm Bill will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hunter Hevlin, with Hawaii Farmers Union with comments in person.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, we'll send on our written comments. Just wanted to highlight that our concern is particularly for smallholders seeking the form of state subsidy that can come through public land access for agricultural operations, could conceivably lose out on their ability to have an equitable playing field to access such lands should they not have the capital to turn their agricultural operations into housing development ones. So a concern that we highlight in these and a few other statutes as we seek to remedy the outstanding need for both residential and workforce housing is how we may be shifting public land support from being one that is oriented towards agricultural operations to those who are capable of taking on development planning. So I think the Department of Agriculture in previous testimony had highlighted that maybe some distinction between the type of program that could, or the type of lease that might be offered, or the type of operation that could qualify for these types of points is worth considering.
Thank you. That's everybody we have listed. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure? Anybody on Zoom? Members, questions?
Chamber of Commerce.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Chamber of Commerce Hawaii stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Okay, what was your name?
Julian Kiawu.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sorry. Members, questions? Chair? Please.
I have a question for Deb.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Brian Deb.
So my question is, I'm looking at this bill and it's kind of directed towards DAB and ADC. And so, a lot of the agriculture leases for DAB are ag parks, and I know that testimony was limited to the ag parks. How does it make sense to do this kind of incentive for housing on agricultural in the ag parks where the lots are a lot smaller?
Without trying to guess as to the intent of the bill, as written, its reach is very wide. It seems as if what they're trying to do in this measure is to capture a method or a way for a joint venture with the state to develop large tracts of land, 100, 200, 1,000, whatever acres that they can find, into smaller size ag lots, whatever that size is designated. And in doing so, while that process is happening, that there will be a process to provide extra points, so to speak, when doing this process. For the language of the bill sweeps in actions that the department takes on a monthly basis, which is the disposition, we call it disposition of just a normal lease, whether it be in an ag park or a non-ag park or now in our agricultural enterprise program. When we award those leases, there's no issue about housing. It's a particular, say, 5-acre lease. And this would essentially make us go out almost to like a public notice to entertain housing on that parcel, which is somewhat in conflict with our existing statutes that monitors housing. We allow it after the Board of Agriculture has gotten a chance to take a look at what the proposal is. And in the past, the department has rejected some housing requests when the housing requests turned out to be mansions instead of farm dwellings. So that's what we're asking, and we believe that our requested change addresses that by changing the definition or clarifying the definition of an agricultural project into something big. So the action of subdivision and capital improvements, because we'll do our own subdivisions, but not necessarily need capital improvements on it, but we'll do that to accommodate different interests over time that have occurred in a particular area, so to speak. But we're not intending, if we're doing it, we're not intending to put necessarily housing on it. Sorry for the long explanation.
No, that's
Thank you, Chair. Any other questions? Okay, moving on, next we have SB 2405 SD1. We have 11 in support, 0 in opposition, 1 with comment. First up to testify is Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in person.
That stands on his written testimony in the comments.
Thank you. Agribusiness Development Corporation in support in person. Dustin.
ADC stands on its written support.
Thank you. Maya Hunter, hopefully you got it on the third time. Maui County Department of Agriculture in support on Zoom.
Aloha, you did. Maya Hunter with Maui County Department of Agriculture. We stand in support of our written testimony. Mahalo.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Okay. Richmond Luzar from Hawaii Housing Future in support in person. Not present. Hunter Hevlin, Hawaii Farmers Union in support in person.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Hunter Hevlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We're in strong support of this measure. It, I think, emerges from a number of conversations with our membership across the islands who have expressed concern around housing and agricultural land. This is a zoning issue. This is an affordability issue. And I think measures like the previous one seem to believe that market mechanisms alone will address these problems. However, I think of, as I can say as a planner, I think of planning as a field is about addressing market failures and having a collaborative effort with industry, with government and others to rationally plan a way forward as opposed to believing that just a series of incentives patched at our public lands are going to address this issue is part of what's necessary to address the myriad concerns that need to be understood to effectively increase our workforce housing for the agricultural sector. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's everybody who we have listed. Is there anybody else who would like to?
Aloha, Iniloa Borland with the Office of Foreign Affairs. OHA stands on our written testimony in support of SB 2405. We strongly support the working group's comprehensive scope of work and strongly recommend that all data collected and reported be disaggregated with specific identification of Native Hawaiian agricultural operators and workforce participants where feasible and appropriate. Disaggregated data will identify disparities in access and ensure that Native Hawaiian farmers and agricultural workers are equitably benefiting from any future programs. And additionally, OHA respectfully requests we be invited to serve as a member of the working group. OHA has long advocated for policies that expand opportunities for Native Hawaiian farmers, ranchers, and food producers. Through grant-making, loans, and advocacy, OHA has supported initiatives that increase access to land, water, and funds for Native Hawaiian agricultural practitioners. OHA has experience in housing policy, land use issues, and community-based development. direct relationships with Native Hawaiian farmers, and a statutory and constitutional mandate to advocate for the betterment of the conditions of Native Hawaiians. OHA's participation in the working group would ensure that agricultural workforce housing strategies are responsive to the needs of Native Hawaiian agricultural workers. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. That's, anybody else who'd like to testify on Zoom? Members, questions? Chair?
Hunter? OHA wants to be included.
Great.
Good. That's all? Okay.
Done.
Alright. Okay, that's it.
I have a quick question, Hunter, sorry. I was waiting until you sat back down. You don't, on this working group, if we were to include OHA, like, do you feel like this would serve small farmers as well as larger like, is it pretty broad as good?
I think that's the hope, certainly. I mean, our farmers union membership is a lot of smallholder and family farm operations, so we're certainly thinking about opportunities that will address not just workforce housing by well-capitalized operations that can build that for themselves, but also how state, county, and private lands and maybe the zoning and districting rules that govern those may need to be modified to allow for housing that can support a diversity of farm sizes. So in some of the other measures, I think we put forward recommendations around caps on, if it is a private development, that only a certain threshold, 50% of the housing can go to that one operation, and it must be distributed benefit since it is on public land. Ideas like that, I think, are best probably debated in a forum like this working group, as opposed to one-off as a deluge of bills come through in the marathon that is every session.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Next up, we have SB 2350 SD2 relating to agriculture. Transfers of rights, powers, functions, and duties of the Aquaculture and Livestock Support Services branch of the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity that relate to agricultural enterprises to the Agribusiness Development Corporations. Wow, word salad. Requires that the regulatory functions of Aquaculture and Livestock Support Services branch remain within the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity as a effective date. And we had 3 in support, 3 in opposition, and 1 with comments. First up, we have Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in person in opposition.
That stands on its written testimony in opposition. Before any questions.
Thank you. Brian Nielsen, Department of Land and Natural Resources in support in person.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Charlie Taylor on behalf of Brian Nielsen for Division of Aquatic Resources. We stand in support of this bill and are available for any questions.
Thank you. Agribusiness Development Corporation with comments in person. Dustin.
Yes, we stand on our written testimony with comments.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in opposition in person.
Not present. The Hawaii Farm Bill will stand on its written testimony, respectfully opposed this measure.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this measure? On Zoom? Members, questions?
Sure. Mr. Miyamoto, maybe you can just explain more broadly to the public the basis of your opposition.
Thank you, Representative Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We're not in favor of dismantling our Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. We understand that a lot of changes have been made. The original bill was proposing to transfer the Agriculture Livestock Support Services branch and Agriculture Development Division branch from DAB over to ADC. That has been amended. Now it just appears to be the development arm or development portion of the aquaculture program within the Department of Agriculture Biosecurity and retain the regulatory portion, and that's something that many of us have advocated for on both the Senate and the House version of the bill. Again, a much better bill in our opinion than what was originally proposed, but we still would like to retain all of those functions together. And we think they're more appropriate to be in DAB than DBED or ADC. We understand the regulatory side. I don't think anybody disagreed that that should remain in DAB. But again, we do believe that we function better when all of the components for any particular program, in this case aquaculture, remain intact and together.
Thank you, Chair.
And then if I may, I'm sorry, went backwards. If we are adding to the workforce working group, maybe we should add the county planning departments also. Sorry. Just as a yes. I know that's not appropriate, but figured I'd take my time up here. I didn't get any stage time today.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Great question. We're all family here. Safe space. Chair, any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we're gonna move on to SB 2169 SD1. This is relating to the Agribusiness Development Corporation. Authorizes ADC to acquire by condemnation any real property or interest in real property under certain conditions. Prohibits any real property acquired by the corporation by condemnation from subsequently being transferred or taken by any other public use without the corporation's consent, has a defective effective date. 2169. We have 3 in support, 0 in opposition, 2 with comments. First off, Lauren Yasaka, DLNR, with comments in person.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Lauren Yasaka, Acting Assistant Administrator for the Land Division. We just really would like you guys to consider our amendment to the bill, which exempts basically the public lands as defined in 171(2). You know, we support the intent of the bill, but we just need we just want to protect, right, everybody else's interest in the state land. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Next up, we have Department of Agribusiness Development Corporation, in support in person.
Yes, we stand on our written testimony support.
Thank you. Office of Hawaiian Affairs in support in person. Wow.
We have comments
Okay.
for this bill. Aloha, Amy Lowell Borland, Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We stand on our written testimony providing comments on SB 2169. OHA supports DLNR's requested amendment to exempt the public trust lands from the proposed condemnation powers. Both OHA and the state of Hawaii have a fiduciary duty to ensure that the public trust lands and revenues derived from them are protected and used in a manner consistent with trust purposes, one of which being the betterment of Native Hawaiian conditions. Any expansion of condemnation authority that includes the public land trust lands raises serious concerns about potential impacts to the trust corpus, beneficiary rights, and the state's trust obligations. Mahalo.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hunter Hevlin, Hawaii Farmers Union with comments in person.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Hunter Hevlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We submitted written testimony offering comments. This is an extraordinary power that would be afforded to a appointed board and staff. And we believe that if this power is to be provided, it should vest the protection of these lands through the mandatory requirement of these lands being put into agricultural conservation easements, as opposed to solely under the veto power of the corporation and its board. If the purpose of having condemnation power is to preserve and expand the agricultural land holdings within the state of Hawaii, we should be preserving those lands, not the power of the entity who oversees them. So our testimony as written also adds the public lands exceptions, and it's requested by DLNR. I think we support the commentary of OHA as well. And fortunately, we have an existing statute around agricultural conservation easements that I think is a far more robust mechanism for the permanent protection of these lands, instead of just adding considerably to the power of this individual state corporation. Happy to answer any questions. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. That is everybody we have listed to testify. Would anybody else like to testify? On Zoom? Members, questions? Share?
I have a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You didn't raise your hands wildly.
It's actually for OHA. So my question to you is whether or not you folks were consulted, because I know that so many lands currently under the purview of ADC are ceded lands. So was there a conversation prior to this legislation being introduced, or?
To my understanding, no.
Okay, thank you. And then I do have a question for ADC.
Mark Takemoto for ADC.
Thank you for being here. So I just have a question. When we spoke to Director Gady previously, she said that she had no specific intent with respect to this approach or this measure, and I was wondering what then would be the purpose, or what is the purpose of this? How does this support the mission of ADC?
Well, what it is it's condemnation powers of specific purposes, right? The infrastructure that supports agriculture. So water systems is let's just as a good example. Many of the turn of the century plantation water systems now, as the plantations have broken apart, run across numerous private property, but maintaining that those connections is critical. So the intention is to be able to, if we cannot create some other mechanism, let's say as a conservation easement, or that you would want to make sure that this infrastructure was maintained and whole. So you would go in and obviously condemnation is not your first choice.
Right.
But it needs to be, you wanna make sure that you don't lose control of a ditch or of a connection that provides access to farming.
Well, aren't these things normally handled through easements, like precisely as you mentioned?
That's right, that would be the, that
So
would be
I'm
our
asking why you would need this additional superpower?
I think what it would be is, that becomes sort of your worst case scenario. What ends up happening is, as I've worked in agriculture for a number of years, through different private companies, and have been firsthand had situations where we could no longer access plantation infrastructure, or
Where you had easements?
yes.
So then what about the enforcement
What
of the
happens
easement?
is, you'll have a situation where you'll need to go in there to repair or maintain something, and now you no longer can get into, or it becomes very difficult for you to go in to make those repairs. Also, you'd wanna make sure that you can inspect and ensure that the infrastructure is being properly accessed or used, right? We're not here to only provide, let's say, irrigation to only ADC property. We're here to provide irrigation, if we can, to any farming operation. And so we provide irrigation to farm operations that are not on ADC property, and to other state agencies in DHHL, DLNR, right?
No, I appreciate that. I understand that. I'm just wondering the need for the superpower. So thank you for your answer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Chair? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to SB 3320 SD1, final measure of the day. This is relating to the Food and Product Innovation Network, requires the Food and Product Innovation Network to integrate a coordinated food safety and regulatory framework, requires the Agribusiness Development Corporation to establish key performance indicators for the Food and Product Innovation Network, develop a market access strategy, align and harmonize state branding initiatives, and report certain data to the legislature. Requires the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism to evaluate and adapt enterprise zone initiatives in all counties to better support the Food and Product Innovation Network. It has a effective date. We have 11 in support, 0 in opposition, and 1 comment. First up is Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity.
Staff stands on his written testimony in support. Here for any questions.
Thank you. Mark from Agribusiness Development Corporation in support in person.
Yes, we stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau in support in person.
The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hunter Hevlin from Hawaii Farmers Union in support in person.
Farmers Union will briefly summarize its comments. Hunter Hevlin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We're in support of this measure, but would like to add, as we have asked for in all the previous hearings, an addition of a metric of measurement that focuses on the growth in revenue and market access for smallholder and family farm operations. We think it is very important to understand who the beneficiaries ultimately are of this form of state investment and programming. We've seen a lot of bills over the course of this session that, in my perspective, will slant the production capacity through the form of land subsidy, the processing capacity, and even some of the purchasing approaches that the state is pursuing towards larger scale operations, which is not representative of the majority of farm operations we have in the state. So we think it is important for this measure to include metrics that start to assess what is the equity and the distribution of benefits that come from this type of proposal. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's all the people we have listed. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on Zoom? Seeing none, that is it for today.
Okay, bye-bye.
Do we have, oh, you're gonna go? Good. Do we have any questions? Oh. Chair, any question? Okay, gonna take a quick recess.
Take a quick recess. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. We're gonna reconvene our Committee on Agriculture and Food Systems Committee for decision making. Brendan, let's start off with the first bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 2885 SD1 relating to biosecurity. For this bill, you know, it's a really good discussion, and I think CRB is an important issue, but I do have concerns with this bill just because of existing regulations and how it doesn't jive, and also with the variations between the counties. So at this time, I'd like to defer this measure. Next up, we have Senate Bill 2174 relating to agriculture. Recommendation of the chair is to pass out a House Draft 1. So we're gonna delete section 1 and read effective date to July 1, 2000 for the discussion. And I wanna place in the committee report the concerns raised by DAB regarding section 1 and the potential conflicts with chapter 92. I do wanna keep this moving, so that's why I'm just keeping the bill alive. So with that, any questions, comments, or concerns, members? Seeing none? Vice Chair for the vote.
We are amended?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2174 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Representative Kahaloa.
Aye.
Representative Lowen.
Aye.
Representative Pruso.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan.
Aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Reservations.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next on the agenda, we have Senate Bill 2925 SD1 relating to coconut trees. So the recommendation on this one, probably the most important piece that's gonna help folks is the tax credit. So what for this one, we're gonna pass out House Draft 1. We're gonna move section 1 of the bill. We're gonna keep the tax credit in place. We're gonna take road taxes recommended amendments and further effective date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns, members? Seeing none?
Can we do a quick recess? I don't have any other sheets. Grant sheets. Or we could just pause. There we go. With amendments. Thank you. Voting on SB 2925 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Is there any nays or with reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have Senate Bill 2798 SD1 relating to law enforcement. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We'll be making technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and further defecting the date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2798 SD1. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Are there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to Senate Bill 2320 SD1 relating to agriculture. This one we're going to pass out a House Draft 1 and just redefecting the date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2320 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Are there any reservations or nay? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Great, thank you. Next, we have Senate Bill 2800 SD1 related to irrigation systems. Again, we're gonna pass out a House Draft 1 and just redefect the date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2800 SD1, Chair and Vice Chair voting, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Is there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next we have SB 1230 SD2 relating to meat donation. So members, for this measure, the introducer and also the introducer of the House Companion are working with DOH and just want some more time to see if they can come up with a workable solution. So I'd like to keep this moving for now since it's a triple referred bill. So I'd like to pass out a House Draft 1 and just read the effective date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none? Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 1230, SD2. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Is there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next we have Senate Bill 2706 SD1 relating to workforce development. Recommendation of the chair is to pass out House Draft 1. So I want to include a blank appropriation amount asked for by DAB in the testimony and place that recommended amount in the committee report and also change the effective date to July 1, 2000 and any technical amendments. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2706 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Are there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next we have Senate Bill 3233 SD1 relating to agricultural workforce housing. Recommendation, we're gonna pass out a House Draft 1. We're gonna take the suggested amendments by DAB to clarify the application to agricultural crops and read the effective date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 3233 SD1. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Is there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next we have Senate Bill 2405 SD1 relating to agricultural workforce housing. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. So we're gonna clarify on page 2, line 16 to 17 to make DAB's assistance permissive instead of requested. Technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. We're also gonna add the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and read effective date to July 1, 2000. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2405 SD1. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Is there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Right, thank you, members. For the next measure, I appreciate what the Senate did to this bill to make it a little better, but I still think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, so I'm gonna defer this measure at this time. Next up, we have Senate Bill 2169 SD1 relating to the Agribusiness Development Corporation. Our recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. We're gonna take DLNR's suggested amendment and exclude certain public lands and read effective date to July 1, 2000. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Reservations.
Okay, reservations for Silva. Any others? Vice Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 2169 SD1. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye, and noting the reservation with Representative Peruso. Are there any other reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Alright, thank you. On our last measure, Senate Bill 3320 SD1. So we're going to pass out a House Draft 1. We're gonna clarify the new section 163DE on page 5 by inserting the amendments made in the House Companion, House Bill 2459. We're also gonna include the appropriations section from section 3 of House Bill 2459. And we'll take the Hawaii Farmers Union amendment for the small farmers and also read effective date to July 1, 2000 and any technical amendments. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 3320 SD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Are there any reservations or nays? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Right, thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.